Okay. Alrighty. Are we good? Everyone can see my screen? I can see only a select few of you. Maybe I should choose who I'm looking at. So I'm looking at the people who are going to give me smiles this whole time. So thank you so much, Alfonso, for that introduction. And I thank you all for the space. And yeah, welcome to Intersectionality and Conservation. Like Alfonso said, I am Dr. Tierra Moore, she, her, and of course, happy Juneteenth. Hopefully you all have been having a great day of learning so far. And of course, we are virtual, but I am sitting on Duwamish land, so I just want to take a moment to recognize that. Oh, okay, here we go. So today, this is I guess the outline. And basically what we're going to go through today is I'm going to talk about this concept of intersectionality and what that means, look at conservation and how we understand it, and basically talk about how moving to this framework of intersectional conservation, we can just have a better outcome for all. And I'm going to do this by sharing my reality and my perspectives and through my lens. And so there are things, personal stories that I do share that Alfonso didn't mention that I really hope that you will honor and take as the gift that they are. I also have, pictures and graphics of things that to me, people put trigger warnings, but, I don't get that option to have a trigger warning. It's just in my life at all times, but I will let you know that that is there. So to start this talk, I'm going to, I guess, talk about my favorite thing to talk about, which is me. Just to give you a little bit of perspective of who you're talking to and who is telling you that you should be listening to me. So I'm originally from Greenwood, South Carolina, if you are wondering where my accent is from. I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. My mom gets mad at me when I forget that detail, but we moved when I was 2, so I don't really claim it. And so I'm from a single parent household. I was raised by my grandmother, actually. And in my home, education definitely wasn't at the forefront, but survival was. And so for me, that looked like reading and knowing that I had to go and get an education to to change my outcome. And so since I come from a large family, I wanted to go and major in biology, and I thought I wanted to be a pediatrician. So I went and did pre-med. So when I got there, I realized quite quickly that, yeah, maybe I don't like kids. maybe this is not going to be able to work for me like that. So I had to figure out, well, dang, what am I going to do? I'm here, I'm in this major. And so there was this tropical ecology class that I signed up for. And the only reason I took it is that they were going to Costa Rica for spring break. So I'm like, oh, free trip, hey. And it was so exciting. So I got to go to Costa Rica to do this research project, and we were there on a boat collecting water samples, and these were new experience that I hadn't had before, and I was amazed. So I asked, because there were senior scientists there, I'm like, is this a real job? Is this a field? Is this a thing? And they told me, of course, about the whole world of marine science. And so I came back very excited, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So I knew I wanted to go to grad school. And so I applied to a historically Black college and university at HBCU because I wanted to have a different experience than I'd had at Winthrop, which is a predominantly white institution. So I chose Hampton University in Virginia because they have a marine science program. I moved on up there, had an awesome advisor that was a great ally. He really pumped me up and made me feel like I could be a scientist. And we did a research project monitoring the water quality in the Chesapeake Bay. So from that experience, I again was feeling myself a lot. I felt like I could go and get a PhD. So I moved all the way across the world to UCLA, to California, and I got my PhD there, where I studied these large macroalgal blooms that you see at the bottom of the picture. These large macroalgal blooms in our estuaries and how they were impacting the sediment microbial community. And that's where I got my training in environmental DNA, and I found out about that world. And so eDNA became a part of my PhD project, and it is what led me to being here today. And so most of you are familiar, but I'm now a postdoc here, and I work in the Ellsworth Creek Preserve. And basically we're using environmental DNA, or eDNA, which is DNA that falls into soil water samples, to be able to provide a biodiversity census to really assess our management practices in real time. So that's me, okay? And if you are wondering just who I am, like I said, she, her, woman, Black, that's me, that's my identity. And the whole, I guess, rationale or reason for this talk, I would say, is in direct response for what I'm calling the infamous question: why do we keep talking about race? Can we talk about nature instead? And I want to appreciate Mike for answering the question when it came up. And I want to have the opportunity to also answer the question and say, no, we can't. And hopefully that's been made clear now. And hopefully we're getting a shared understanding as to why we can't. And so what I want to move on to now is the meat of the presentation, where we go and get into, I guess, my story and think about this intersectional conservation. And so I'll start with defining intersectionality. And I'm going to read the definition. Intersectionality is a theoretical framework for understanding how aspects of a person's social and political identities might combine to create unique modes of discrimination. Intersectionality identifies injustices that are felt by people due to a combination of factors. And this was coined by Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989. And what Kimberly was talking about in this definition is basically the experiences that she was going through as a Black woman. So basically, for her to experience the sexism, she was experiencing as how white women experience it, and racism, how Black men experience it. And so for me, a constant question I ask when I have a negative interaction, is it because I'm Black? Or is it because I'm a woman? Is it because I'm a scientist? And so for me, and the answer is, it's all of that. It's both. It's the combination. And so that's where that intersectionality is. Me and my historical and cultural perspectives, I carry around in my science. So let's talk about this. So let's talk about Ellsworth. Ellsworth is a very exciting project, and we had a very successful media presentation with this project. We were on the front page for this work that we were doing. And being a minority scientist, there are things that, I'm always smiling and pictured as smiling. But what I want to share with you is the story that leads to these smiles and these front page photos. So I remember distinctly when I first went to Ellsworth, and to be honest with you, I was a bit nervous because I don't hike, but Phil approved me getting some new hiking boots, so I was very excited about this. I got some pink ones; they're very fancy, and so I prepared myself to go into the woods. And there was a point when we were in the woods that my team who was a bit more fit than I am, was going a bit faster than I was. And I kept losing the group. And the problem with that is that being in that beautiful forest and everyone else scurrying around hiking, I could have had a great experience. This is nice, this is beautiful. But I was separated from my team. So instead of finding these benefits in nature, I was struck with fear there by myself. thinking of my ancestors, thinking of all the things that my grandma had said to me.
Don't you go in those woods, girl. Those white folks will hang you. Don't you go in those woods, girl. Those white folks will hang you. Don't you go in those woods, girl. Those white folks will hang you.
I cried in those woods by myself. I don't know if my team didn't know I was there, if they didn't see, if they didn't care, but I was by myself in the field, and no one recognized the fear that comes with being Black and being in the woods. The erasure of history is the problem. We say, oh, we don't know why Black people don't want to go outside. I do. My grandma taught me this to save my life.
Don't you go in those woods, girl. Those white folks will hang you.
But there I was in the woods, betraying what she had told me, not listening, doing my own thing, left alone to support the mission. And so this is the historical perspective that I carry, that everyone needs to be aware of. So when we're working together, people don't leave me in the woods. And it's interesting because people can say, oh, this is history, you haven't experienced this. And I want to share something with y'all. Because not only is this is a historical perspective, this is my social identity. And this is really interesting because I found this, a couple lab meetings ago, we were asked to bring something from our childhood. And I pulled down my softball. This is something I keep in my house. And I hadn't even realized this. I was looking at it and it's all signed by my friends. But one of my friends, and Timo is my nickname, Tierra Moore, you can get it, Timo. Let me get my noose. Just playing. Had a blast playing with you this year. Stay good. And it's so crazy when I saw this because I was transported back to that moment in history in South Carolina, being the only Black person on the softball team, and my white friends on the team, when we went to these different locations, would say, hey, we'll protect you. But remember, if you ever get out of line with us, we'll get our noose. That's what they told me. So while they were protecting me, they were also threatening my life. These were my friends. She signed this on my ball for me to remember forever. So because of me, simply being Black, maybe I never saw someone get hung. There was never, it happened, but because me, being a Black person, I was taunted. Let me get my noose. And I say this because these are good people, right? Well-intentioned, wanting to do good things. She was protecting me. There's no problem. So it makes me think about conservation. And I found this quote. The purpose of conservation, the greatest good to the greatest number of people for the longest time. And that sounds good. Just like my friends who were protecting me, wanting to do good. But when you think about it, when you look more, good, who defines good and for what people? Good for what people? Again, this dominance and degradation of land is good for who? When we look more and think more about conservation, we think about the goals that we have that we all are committed to doing. Conservation's goals include protecting species from extinction, maintaining and restoring habitats, enhancing ecosystem services, and protecting biological diversity. And so when I think about conservation, the one that stands out to me the most is ecosystem services. And I think that's what we spend a lot of time thinking about and trying to figure out how we can enhance those. And so, of course, because I want to be, correct, I go in, what's the definition of ecosystem services? Ecosystem services are the many and varied benefits to humans gifted by the natural environment and from healthy ecosystems. And so again, sounds good, sounds great, but then the question comes, what are benefits? And we've all seen this by now, but we're going to watch it again.
Please don't come close to me.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording me.
Please don't come close to me.
Please take your phone off.
Please don't come close to
And
me.
I'm taking pictures of the cops.
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life. I'm sorry, I'm in a ramble, and there is a man, African-American, who has a vice behind him. He's recording me and threatening me and my dog. There is an African-American man, I am in Second Park. He is recording me and threatening myself and my dog.
Please don't.
So that experience was him being in nature, supposed to be experiencing those benefits, but because of who he is, because of him being Black, he wasn't able to. He was unable. He didn't have access to those benefits of nature simply because of the color of his skin, simply because he asked someone to follow the rules. Now we have a situation where she's weaponizing the police against him. I pull up this picture because this picture gets a lot of reviews. Everybody talks about it. Oh, look at Tierra in the mud. Wow, that smile is so nice. And I'm holding up algae, dirty, looking like a scientist. And you know what's funny is no one has ever asked me who took this picture? I got this picture after, I'll say Karen, came up to me and asked, hey, what are you doing down there? You shouldn't be down there. I'm going to call security. I'm in the mud with a composition notebook. There is buckets. There's a pH meter. And all she says, you don't belong here. What are you doing here? I'm going to call security. Me, literally minding my business in the mud. So, of course, in fear for my life, I sit there upright, try to see how I get myself out of this, because if Karen calls the police, I'm dead. Hi, I'm Tierra. I'm a PhD candidate at UCLA. I am here for my dissertation research, and I do have a permit to be here. It is in my car. You can go and look. Oh, you're a student. Oh my goodness. Well, this is so exciting. And then what are you working on? So me, still heart pounding, now losing time from my time sensitive program research. I have to talk to her so she doesn't call the cops, so I can save my life. As I'm sitting there trying to de-escalate the situation, oh, well, hey, would you mind taking a picture of me, please, so I can have it for my research? That would be nice. You could be helping. Because she wasn't going to leave until I included her. Then I had to now take care of the woman who had just threatened to kill me while I'm in the middle of doing my science. That's how it feels being Black in STEM. So she, picks up my iPhone, takes the photo, and goes on. I'm so excited I can help. And so I sat there, deep breaths, trying to de-escalate myself. Like, what do I do? Do I stay here, finish this experiment? Do I leave? And now I'm questioning, did this happen because I'm Black? Because I'm a woman? Because I'm a scientist? Because I'm here? What? So I guess what I'm saying is that this intersectional conservation provides this theoretical outline for weaving these social identities and historical perspectives into the mission of conservation. And what that means is that if you can understand my racial identity perspectives and relate the plight of Black lives directly and unequivocally to the white supremacy culture that has caused it, if you can believe that and see that is culture and system, this intersectional conservation provides you a framework to see that what white supremacy culture has done to Black people, white supremacy culture is also doing to nature. We have nature that's literally asking to be listened to, and yet we're not.
New evidence out this week shows that our planet is in a state of emergency, and perhaps it's even worse than we thought. Data out of Hawaii shows CO2 emissions at levels not seen in about 3 million years. The world's water is already polluted by plastic, also sending a warning over the weekend. Temperatures by the entrance of the Arctic Ocean surging to 84 degrees. None of it seems to be prompting the Trump administration to rethink its policies, though. In fact, just this month, the administration erased offshore drilling rules put in place after the BP oil spill. Our next guest says it's time to build a coalition to defend science. I'm joined now by Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson. She's a marine biologist with a PhD. She's also the founder of Ocean Collective. And she just wrote in the Scientific American that, quote, "We must defend science in the face of political attacks." Walk us through your piece here. Climate change has been an issue for years. Why speak out now? Why this moment?
Thanks for having me and asking that question. I've been speaking out on this issue since I've known about it. A lot of scientists have, and we're really excited that other people are finally starting to care. I mean, the facts that you rattled off are of such deep concern that the thought of a presidential administration ignoring these facts and therefore not protecting the American people based on what we know about science is just abhorrent.
Well, how do we fire up? How do you fire up and inspire people to take action?
I think part of it is making sure that people know that science is under attack. A lot of people do not know that the Trump administration has attacked science 98 times since they've been in office, from censoring scientists to telling people they can't even use the term climate change. Obviously, we can't deal with the problem if we're pretending that it's not even there. Preventing scientists from talking about their research, editing reports, deciding what gets funded based on politics. All of these are things that people don't even know are happening. So I'm glad that we're talking about it.
So again, you can see similar parallels, this erasure, this not listening, this domination, this suppression. So by understanding then we can create a framework that creates this intersectional conservation. And so when basically conservation says, let's plant trees, that's what we're doing. But what I'm saying is nature and intersectionality is saying, and we're not listening. We're not listening. And so moving to this intersectional conservation says that you need me, that we have to do this together, that it's not about us here, boots on the ground, but these things are bigger than us. It's about a system of oppression that has caused this degradation of a community of people and our ecosystem. So what can we do? What can we do? And I saw this at the Chaz. I went there, or the shop, whatever it is now. And I thought this was just really interesting. You can take a moment to read it. And then that's my question to you. Thinking about the things that I've talked about, thinking about how understanding the history of cultural suppression and erasure of history and things like that for the Black community, how we can see this white supremacy culture and how the suppression of it in the proposal of inferiority just can destroy and degrade entire ecosystems, just like it has done the Black community. So I want to say thank you so much for listening. I want you to take 5 minutes right now, turn off your video, and write down exactly what you think about everything that I just said. 5 minutes right now. So I really hope that you take my thoughts into consideration. I really hope that you were able to have some open and honest discussions in your group. And I'm not asking us to share out now, because I really want you to take the time and spend the time sharing out every time you have another meeting. Every time there's a Zoom meeting, we have Zoom meetings, I don't know, probably about 8 times a day. So every time you're in a meeting or something like that, and there's a moment to share, think about these things that I discussed so it doesn't get lost. Because I think when we go back and then we share it all out, people say it in the meeting and then we never think about it again. So I want you to think about this daily and see how we can move to this intersectional conservation. And that's really what I want to leave you with. But since it is Juneteenth, I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't celebrate it properly. And just share that with you all as a Black person. Black people love church. I don't know if you know that. And it's so funny to say because we really do. It's just a joy, the music, the things. And so I just really want y'all to understand that Juneteenth is about this freedom, that finally my ancestors could go out into this world to make a future for themselves, finally provide me the opportunity to become Dr. Moore, something that they couldn't have thought was possible when they were getting beaten in the field and being raped and all these things that were happening. So we made it. And so it's time for us to acknowledge this history and ingrain it in our perspectives today so we never allow it to happen again, because that's what's happening now. And so I want everybody to come off mute. We got a little song. And I really want y'all to think about being at church. And when the pastor is about to end, he says, I want you to look to your left and look to your right and say neighbor. So I just want you to look to your left and look to your right and just say neighbor.
Neighbor.
Ready for a change? Neighbor, are you ready for a change?
Yes.
That's it. That's what this is about. This is about celebrating Black people. I am so happy to be Black. I don't want to be anything else. I want to matter. I want to, no matter what, when y'all see me, you're not afraid. There's no fear in your heart. You don't think I'm going to murder you. I'm just here trying to save the world.
Yeah.
That's it.
Woo!